Hey everyone, Kevin here. Let's talk about guilt, which is a very common feeling that educators leaving the profession feel. And it's normal, even when we knew that our mental and physical health literally couldn't maintain that lifestyle anymore. Because we went into teaching for altruistic and selfless reasons. We had a calling to teach our youth. But when that calling faded, we realized that we no longer were the teachers we once were and needed to leave. Unfortunately, that guilt came in as a result, and we felt that we were being selfish for doing what we wanted rather than the selfless service we did for our students. This is something that transitioning teachers often desperately struggle with. But you know what I've always told them to think of? The fact that selfishness isn't always a bad thing. And when we think of the word selfish, negative images of self serving people only out for themselves appear in our minds. After all, it is actually defined as being occupied with your personal pleasure and profit. But there's more to it than that. And we need to redefine or at least set new boundaries as to what is actually selfish versus what is simply self care or putting ourselves first in healthy and constructive ways. Early on in my transition, one of my very first posts I ever made on LinkedIn was the quote, "You can't pour from an empty vessel." And that is what teachers who need out have been trying to do toward the end of their careers. They can't be the person they want to be after losing so much of themselves to the profession and understanding that we need to genuinely look after ourselves for the first time. Until I left and realized how much happier I was, I hadn't come to terms with what it meant to have good mental health. All of this reminds me of another quote from Bob Rosen, actually, where he said that when you take care of yourself first, you show up as a healthy, grounded person in life. If you can't take care of yourself, then you can't take care for others. Being selfish is critical, and being selfish and leaving teaching is a good thing. Why? Well, number one, you need help. Teachers avoid seeking help because we are often stigmatized for it. It makes us look weak or needy somehow. Teachers don't get the help or therapy they need because of it, too. I know I recently talked on here and on our podcast about the issue of teacher substance abuse and how few educators are able to publicly acknowledge they need that help, so they turn to drugs, alcohol, and the like to cope. You need help, and that's okay. Number two, you need a rest. Teachers get so little actual time off and frequently come to work when they're sick, instead of taking the time to recover, because it is actually harder to take a day off than it is to come into work feeling awful instead. And whether resting is sleep, meditation, reading a book, playing a video game, or watching your favorite show, you just need to do it. Teachers are never able to turn off and frequently bring work home or have to stay up far after their contract hours to get things done. You aren't getting the rest you need, and that's really impacting you on a personal level. Number three, you need time to yourself. Going nonstop for so long has taken its toll. Your calendar is usually full of nothing but work. So I asked you, when was the last time you were able to do things on your own without it being in the middle of a holiday break? When was the last time you came home, had a nice dinner, and truly disengaged from your work? Even if you're an extrovert, teaching kids every day is physically, emotionally, and mentally taxing. It's exhausting, and you need time to yourself to correct that, which you aren't getting as a teacher. Number four, you dread the job and what it has done to you. I bet that you have not wanted to get out of your car in the parking lot more times than you care to admit. You know what it has done to you, but you don't know how to stop at the same time. It's important to say that you can't sustain any kind of relationship that is abusive and no longer makes you happy. If something's affecting your well being, then it's time to say goodbye, even if it is more about you than them. Number five, you give more than you take. Remember what I just said about pouring from an empty vessel? All the accountability and onus is on you to produce results, even though you're never given any thanks or support in order to do so. You're always the one doing everything. And even though it can be rewarding at times, you rarely got anything in return out of it, even a living wage. There needs to be more equality. And until there is, you need to do what you need to for your long term happiness. And saying and teaching probably isn't going to do that. And finally, number 6, you can't separate work and life. You're burned out. As I said before, teachers are not really able to clock out at the end of the day. You know as well as I do that your work hours were never actually your work hours. If you can't separate those two, then you seriously need to reevaluate what you're doing in your life. My overall point here, though, is that there is a difference in being self focused and self involved. Being self focused is not a bad thing and is the positive type of selfishness. It isn't about putting our needs first to get ahead of others. It's rather about prioritizing our needs so we can be happy and fulfilled in the long run. By taking our own health into our own hands and doing what we must, then we are able to reach a healthier state of mind. You shouldn't see yourself as selfish for wanting to leave. You did everything in your power to do the right thing, and you did. You've been selfless for long enough with nothing in return for it. It's time for you to find a new place that values you, your career, and your health. You may continue to feel guilty, but temper that with the knowledge that you're going to be so much happier changing careers in the long run than staying a teacher. And as always, I am here to help you understand this difference and move into that better frame of mind. See you next time.